Ballard.
And I'm Melony Smirniotis.
And welcome to Art and Up, the place where creators connect, cultivate and support each other's artistic journey. Today, we are talking to the vivacious
Rebecca Brady. Welcome, Rebecca.
Welcome,
Hi,
Rebecca.
guys. How are you?
Great.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, well, we're sensational in lockdown style. Let's get straight to it. Tell us, because we're dying to know, and we suspect we do know, have you always been a creative person?
Well, you'd be surprised. Yes, very much so. Been very creative from a very young age. I was really blessed as a young person to have an amazing grandmother, and she was an inspiration to everything that I did. And whether or not it was sewing, whether or not it was cooking and making crafts with toilet rolls on the kitchen table. And it was something that's been instilled in me my whole life. So I think I've been creative. I can't sit still can't sit still. Very lucky that you got me sitting still at the moment, but it's been something that's been embedded in me since I was I think I was born with it, if I can say that.
So Rebecca, you did art at school. When was it that you knew that you wanted to be an artist?
I always loved to paint and draw, and it was something that I inspired to do. Even through maths and science, I used to do really cool colouring borders and things like that. But it wasn't until year 7 when I had this amazing art teacher. Her name was Miss O'Shea. And the way that she delivered the lessons was so different to other teachers, and it like ignited this fire in me, and I didn't believe you could be so passionate about a subject. But it wasn't probably until year 9 and 10 that I had Miss Erskine, and would you believe I still see Miss Erskine every now and then, but it would have been Miss Erskine in year 9 and 10 who lit that fire and showed possibility, and I live by that possibility in what you can do with your life. And if you believe hard enough and work hard enough, you can get anything. And she inspired me to paint, to draw, to sculpt, and to use all different medias. And I still do that to this day. So I would have been about 13, 14 when I met her, and I haven't stopped.
Wow, that's just a great, I hope that she's watching. Hi, Miss.
Hi, Margaret.
Yeah, you've got to give the good shout outs to people because, as teachers, we most of the time don't know how much we touch people's lives or change them and inspire them, mostly for the better. Looking at the size of that work behind you, amazing. But where do you paint? Where do you actually create this work?
I'm really blessed, Mel. I have 2 purpose-built studios. One of my studios is a printing studio where I'm very lucky to own 2 massive large format printers and a cutting machine. And my other studio next door is my cutting and painting room. I also have a beautiful veranda outside where I paint a lot outside. I also, because I'm a mixed media artist, I work on the ground a lot and paint very fluidly. So it depends on gravity and things. So I'm always working around. You can see this big monstrosity behind me. It's about 1.6 by 1.6 meters. There's about probably about 20 layers in it at the moment. It's all about this build-up, being quite intuitive at the beginning of the process. But that's where I think my works really start to progress, because it's that unknown, and I love the unknown. I'm always an artist to experiment. You'll always find me experimenting with rust and with melted wax, and if ink shouldn't go with water, with oils, then I will find a way of doing it. So all these initial layers are all about that fun, about being an artist and having enjoying that kid-like sensation of when things sometimes work and don't, and you just build all that up until you get what you're after, and then it's those real high detailed levels that go on top.
So Rebecca, that brings us to our next point. How do you plan your art? Do you plan your art? You mentioned about being intuitive, but I gather coming from a teaching perspective, you probably have some sort of plan.
I have a lot of visual diaries that I draw in and a lot of things that I take sketches, and I'm always inspired by life. Recently, I've been very inspired by my local landscape, especially being in lockdown here in Sydney, taking my kids for bushwalks. I'm blessed to be in Picnic Point area of the Georges River. We've got beautiful bushwalking areas along the river where my kids take a lot of the photos too. I love the perspective that the kids take with the phone and the cameras. So I kind of incorporate all those into my drawings and paintings. I've stepped a lot back from trying to really know what it looks like at the end, because sometimes when I was creating works, I've been doing this now for over 20 something years. We'll stop there. But I used to want to know what it looked like at the end. But now I love that idea that every day I can wake up and I see something different. And even if it means turning your artwork upside down or to the side or to the left, and I like the unknown. So even though I do have drawings and photographs and sketches, and over here, I work with little designs and paintings that I take from my photographs that the kids have taken. The kids have become a really big part of my art making process, and it's interesting because sometimes being an artist is a real lonely journey, but having my beautiful family and my Jackson and Harper, who are 11 and 4, they've just got this total different vision. They're like little visionaries of their own. And as Picasso says, you kind of lose it when you get older, that artist in a child. And I love the way they see things. And even the way that my daughter paints rainbows, there's elements of rainbows in this work, and the way that she puts colors together. And even just as a kid, you pick up a color and you don't care what the color is next to it. Like, I try and limit my palettes because sometimes I'm very much a colourful person, and I love the idea of just putting colours next to each other. But in a lot of these recent works, I've really limited the palette, but I've tried to do a variety of different tones of the same colour to represent that idea of that rainbow that my daughter can connect to.
So talking about colour palettes and ways of seeing, that beautiful work behind you, can you talk us through maybe materials? Because what I love about your work is seeing those layers, and every time you look, you see something very different. But materials has a lot to do with that. Could you talk us through?
Very much so. I'm in love with all different materials. If you come to my studio, you'll see things from resins to watercolors to acrylics. I got my golden flow materials. I love mixing different types of dyes. I really like to add the pigment into the canvas to start with. I'm working on these beautiful smooth canvases at the moment. They're very similar to like a real smooth watercolor paper where you can actually draw and etch into them as well. So the beginning layers are very much like this, close your eyes and just be really absorbed by the environment. And a lot of my little works I take down to the bush with me and create them down there. But these bigger ones, I seem to surround myself with the little works. And I work with very much free-flowing works that work with gravity, that I can manipulate, especially with water and with mediums, to get different drip techniques. And when they're dry, I love to add things like salt flakes and even isopropyl alcohol to get some different reactions happening. I then layer all that with binding fluids and making everything archival and continue layering effects like that. I do have some beautiful watercolors in this as well. And I love golden. I think that's one of my favorite products at the moment, or different versions of golden paints. And even, what else have I got in this one? Even some Poscas. I love doing a lot of detail, and there's also pen work in this as well. So it's probably got another 20 layers to go, and it may change totally again tomorrow. And the evolution of them it would be surprising to take photos. I do take a lot of photos, but if I took a photo every hour, sometimes the work doesn't even look like the same work like 3 days on. And people ask, is that the same work you were working on? I think, yeah, it would have been if you rub it all back.
Yeah, I think, Rebecca, what's really nice about the work is I would probably put you in that abstract expressionist style. So you mentioned about going down to the bush and that impression that sits in your mind, and then it comes out in your work, and that tactility, that kind of action that happens, and the artwork sort of end up as a result of the event almost, you know, that you're having this activity all the time. And that's what adds to the energy of the work. There's all these things that are almost hidden underneath. Your paintings have lots of life about them. And in saying that, then how do you schedule your time? Because these paintings could continue, I would imagine, over many layers. Do you have a plan on how you kind of go about planning for the work and scheduling your time during the days? Because we also should say that Rebecca's a teacher as well, her other occupation. So how do you call that corners of the day? You have this great saying.
Oh, I find time to do things in those those little corners of the edges of the day where everyone else might be sitting down and watching TV, but if I can find 5 minutes here, I'll come down for 5 minutes and add another layer of work. Or my work's highly detailed. That's one thing. I talk about all these expressive brushstrokes, and this is where the fun happens. But I suppose then the professionalism switches on when it gets to those final 2 or 3 layers when I'm totally focused and I really need to be on my own and totally one with the work, because it's when all the dotting layers happen and all those fine creative things that I've learned over the last 25 years and all my experience comes together in those. So whether or not it's 9 o'clock in the morning after I've taken my daughter to daycare, and it could only be 10 minutes. At the moment, it's during homeschooling as well as teaching online, and it's all these other different elements that I try and fit into the day. Not only do I paint, but I also am a textile designer, so I have lots of things happening at once. So when you get to know me really well, my mind is not focused straight down the line. It's all about all these things happening in my world. But if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be the person I am. And I don't think I'd create artworks like this because my mind is always ticking over. But I do find time. And I think if you want to be professional and you want your works to sell and you want to get a living out of this, then you need to find times in the day. Because sometimes I'd like to just sit down and at the moment maybe watch the Olympics because I love it. But
yeah, and I just, sorry to interrupt, I just sort of feel like I want to stop you at that moment and talk about, usually we would ask artists about what happens when you hit a flat spot, but I suppose let's just keep it relevant with lockdown. You know, this has all hit us pretty hard as artists and a lot of things have been put on hold or, you know, sidelined. What do you do to stay motivated during lockdown?
I walk a lot. I listen to some podcasts. I try and find podcasts that are interesting. I try and see the world through different rosy colored glasses and try not to be down on yourself because everyone's in it at the same time, but you need to stay motivated. So my family always keeps me on my toes, but just having that 5 minutes in the day to, even if it's just to walk quickly around the block or to watch something on YouTube. Like I'm into the idea of watching other people work as well. I think that counteracts that time when you're in a slump and you can see someone creating something beautiful and you know that you've got that urge inside you that you want to paint again. So, and sometimes it's just really hard. My 2 studios are at the back of the house. So sometimes when it's really bad weather, I can't get down here. I can't take my works outside. So there's always ways to fill in time. So if I can't work large, I work small. And sometimes you just got to find the time. And I think last night it was 11:30 at night. Everyone was asleep, but I'm the only one still awake, just, you know, plodding along because you find those times in the day and then you back up at 6 the next morning and start again.
Mm.
It sounds like, Rebecca, that it invigorates you more than like is an issue, you know, and I think we forget about that as artists. You know, doing the work is the invigoration. It's our therapy a lot of the time. We just need a little bit and then it feels better, you know, it feels like we're back to ourselves. But unfortunately, when we look at things like social media, that quickness of, you know, we see someone doing something beautiful and it all seems so quick, it can work the opposite as well. I think, you know, there are all these people doing amazing work and doing it really quickly and things like that. How do you tackle your social media? Do you have a big presence on those?
Oh, I'm terrible. Listen, I'm so bad with social media. It's not even funny. I'd be lucky to remember to post something once a week. Sometimes I remember 11 o'clock at night, and it's not from the idea of not taking photos or video. I think I sometimes video myself painting because I love the idea of going back to it, because sometimes I do things that I'm really inspired by and forget how I do it because I do so many different things all the time. But I forget to share. My phone's full of photos and things like that. So do I rely on it? No, because I think I get obsessed with it. So, but I do enjoy going through it and looking at other people's work. And it is really important to be on there because you can connect. And I've connected with so many wonderful people through social media, and especially on my textile design work and my art side there. I've met wonderful people from around the world that I would never have met before. But my presence on there could be more. But do I choose to? No, because sometimes I think it can really, I've spoken to artists where they spend a lot of time on it. Like some people can spend to 2 to 3 hours a day on social media, and I don't have time for that because I would miss out on doing other things that I love. So unless I can take a quick photo and a couple of hashtags once a week, I'm happy with that, because I think I built my career before social media. Yeah. And I plan for it to continue a lot longer than social media. So if I can get a bit out there and meet some new people, fantastic. But I'm not going to live and die by social media, if that makes sense.
Would you say it's the hardest thing about your art life, social media, feeling that responsibility, or is there something that you find, you know, is a weakness that you need to work on, you know, constantly, like we're all a work in progress?
Oh, definitely. Oh, listen, if I had an extra moment in the day, I probably would. I wish I was so organized to take a photo every day and to post something. But I think sometimes then people just do it because they want to. And I think sometimes it's really nice when I do post it, I post something that I do want to share. I think the other day I painted like 10 o'clock at night, and it was this beautiful watercolor flower because I just bought some new watercolors, and I really enjoyed the process, and it looked great. And I took a photo and it looked good. Thought I'd love to share this with people because people don't see that process in my textile design work of those initial paintings. But if I painted like that every day and then posted something, I don't know if everyone really wanted to see that. So that's something that I think. But God, yeah, I should be better on it probably. But you know, I should pay someone to do it for me. But you know, sometimes it's just all in that too hard basket.
Artists are being made to be marketing managers. I come from a design background, and so do you, Rebecca. And it's like, this was a job. This was somebody else's job. And a lot of the people that you see out there doing things really successfully have a team of people behind them that can do all those extra things. So we're being asked to do a lot of things, and a lot of artists we get angry at it because, you know, I want to paint. I want to get out there. So that brings me to the next point. We gather that social media is not the thing that you love about being a painter. What's one of the favorite things that you love about being a painter?
I love the community. I have to say that I have met so many wonderful people in my life through my love of painting, whether or not it's been through art school, where I'm still friends with phenomenal people, even my local art society, where I'm blessed to know the most amazing humans who are such talented, wonderful people who teach me so much. And I love an art community that is sharing and that can interact with each other and console each other and knows the hard slog of the occupation that we have chosen. I would never, ever take any of that back, because I think that's the most amazing thing. And I think sometimes my husband is not an artist. He's not from this art community. And sometimes he thinks when I get together with my art friends that we're all probably a bit wacko. But he doesn't understand. I think we have this invisible language that we all talk about, and you know, it all puts a smile on our face because we know the hard work that goes into an exhibition. We know the hard work that goes into even creating a painting. It takes a lot of energy. People run marathons, and sometimes that's just the same as painting for an exhibition. So the mental energy, the creativity, the angst that goes into it, the tears people don't see, and the hard work of like deciding that you want to be an artist at the age of 13, 14, and then living it and knowing that you're turning 44 and still doing it, and you've bought a house and you run a successful business and you do what you love. Like, it would have been that art community that got me to where I am. And so could social media help inspire my art community? Yes, it can. And so should I probably be a bit more on board with it? Probably, but I do like talking to people and I do like that one-to-one contact. So maybe after COVID, might get a little bit better.
No. So speaking of all that hard work that goes into exhibitions, you do have an upcoming solo show at Gallery 1111 in November. Can you talk us through, give us a little sneak peek as to what to expect for that exhibition?
Yeah, so last year's exhibition at Gallery 1111 was called Quilted and was based on my grandmother, and the idea that stories and things that grandma had taught me throughout my life and my love of textile design have been quilted, or a story, a narrative being put through my life. This exhibition is very much a landscape exhibition where totally something left to centre for me, but very much surrounded and about my children. So my children play a major part in my life, and this landscape is where I was brought up. It's Picnic Point, Penania. It's my hometown. It's where I was born. So this exhibition's all about the love of being a child, about being surrounded by around the bush. It's about the Georges River, and it's all about me. And it's about this journey. So the layers are all about where I started as a printmaker, and I even got lino printing pressed into some of my works. And it's this combination of all these wonderful things that I have in store, because when you get to know me, Rel, I like to push boundaries and I don't like to rest on something that I did yesterday. I always like to think forward and look for things that haven't been done before. So I'm very excited about this work. I've got some pretty cool plans for it, and some really big paintings to hopefully that you'll love.
Oh, we're very much looking forward to it. Thank you so much today, Beck, for dropping into Art and Up, because I'm sure you inspire so many. I know that you inspire us.
I think Rebecca's paintings are very similar, that I see them almost as self-portraits, all those layers, all those intricate things, the big bits, the little bits, all the layers. That's pretty much Rebecca's life. And there's lots to be found in there in her artwork. So we hope that everybody can get out of lockdown in Sydney and see these beautiful works, which we're very excited to see in November, and the making of them. And we will be looking at her social media, even if she's not posting much, because that gives us a little sneaky peek. So thank you, Rebecca. We really should let you get back to the studio and finish creating some of those amazing works.
Thanks so much for having me, ladies. Have a great day.
We'll see you soon.
Enjoy
Bye.
the edges of the
Bye.
decks. Bye.
Bye.